Alright, so we're going to talk about how to graph a linear function when given a equation such as y equals 3 over 4 x minus 2. So what we're going to do is identify the parts of it. So the first part is the y-intercept. So here, this is the y-intercept. So I'm going to write out the y-intercept. And the y-intercept is always a coordinate point. So when it comes to the y-intercept, the only thing that's always 0 is the x value. So again, when I'm talking about the y-intercept, the only thing that's always 0 is the x-intercept. So 0 first, and then my y-intercept, my y value, will be the one that I just underlined, so negative 2. So 0 comma negative 2, that's going to be our y-intercept. Now, let's talk about the slope. The slope is always just the number in front of x. So, we have a fraction 3 over 4. Now, to recall, when we're trying to find slope, we always use rise over run. Now, when we're going to graph the slope, it's the same thing with the fraction. So, our numerator is the rise, and our denominator, the bottom one, is the run. So again, the numerator is the rise, and the denominator, the bottom, is the run. Alright, so when it comes to graphing y equals 3/4 x minus 2, we always start off with the y-intercept. So our y-intercept is 0 comma negative 2, so 0 and then comma negative 2, which is right here. So now, using the y-intercept, we're going to follow the slope. So 3 is our rise, so I'm going to go up 3 times. So 1, 2, 3, and then 4 is our run, so I'm going to go to the right 4 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's our second point. So what I'm going to do is going to connect those two. Alright, so I'm going to graph with my red line, red pen. So here is our graph. Draw my arrows. Now, if I were to have to go backwards, if I didn't have enough space, so if I were to go backward based on what I have here, so this is a positive 3, 4. So backwards meaning going opposite of what I did here. So if I went up 3, I'm going to go down 3. 1, 2, 3. And since in the beginning I went to the right 4, I'm going to go to the left 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's if I'm going in the opposite direction, if I didn't have enough space to find our second point on the right. So you're able to go backwards by going opposite directions. So keyword opposite direction. If positive up right, and then the opposite is down left. So make sure to remember that. So again, if it's positive, meaning up right, then backwards, down left, if you're graphing the opposite direction. Alright, in our second example, we have y equals negative 5 over 2x plus 3. So the first thing we're going to do is identify the y-intercept. And again, the y-intercept is always a coordinate point. Y-intercept, the x is always 0, comma, then the y value, positive 3 since it's a plus 3. So that's our y-intercept. Now, given our slope, we have negative 5 over 2. Again, the slope is just a number. Our top number, numerator, is the rise. And then our denominator, the bottom one, is the run. Alright, so let's graph our first point, 0, 3. So we go to 0 for x, and then comma 3, so 1, 2, 3. So here's our y-intercept, the point on the y-axis. Alright, now given this slope, since it's negative 5 over 2, we're only going to apply the negative to the top number. So negative 5, meaning we're going to go down 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now for the run, which is 2, we're going to go to the right. So 1, 2. So here's our second corner point. Now I'm going to graph connecting these 2 points. Alright, so there we go. Here's our graph line. So I start off with finding the y-intercept, which is 0, 3, which is right here. And then identify our slope, which was negative 5 over 2. 5 was the rise, 2 was the run. So when we start off at the y-intercept, since it was negative, I go down 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the run, so I go to the right 2 times. 1, 2. And then here's our 2 points. And here's our graph line. Now in our third example, we have y equals 3x minus 5. So, same as before, we're going to find the y-intercept. So I'm going to underline it. It's always the number without the x. So here's our y-intercept. Our y-intercept, x, is always 0. And the y value, the one I underlined since it's minus 5, our y value is negative 5. So here's our y-intercept, 0, negative 5. So now we're going to identify our slope. Now, unlike the last 2 examples, our slope is now a whole number. So in the first and second example, we were given where it was a fraction. So it was easy to find the rise and the run. But if you have a whole number, not a fraction, so the only thing we could do is just simply change it to a fraction by putting 1 underneath the whole number. So instead of just 3, now it's 3 over 1. And just like before, the numerator is the rise, so 3 is rise. And then our denominator is the run, so 1 is the run. Alright. Identify our slope and our rise and run so we can start graphing. So we're going to go to our y-intercept, which is 0, negative 5. So 0, negative 5 right here. Found our slope. So 3 is our rise. Now since it's positive, I'm going to go up 3. So 1, 2, 3. And then our run is 1. So I'm going to go to the right 1 time. And here is our second point. But say if I want to find more points, I continue the same process. So same thing. From the second point, I'm going to go up 3 times, 2, 3, and then to the right once, and here's our third point. So when I'm graphing these 3 points, they all should line up together. So the first, second, and third. So yep, they line up together. So I'm going to graph our line. Then I'm going to include arrows on the end. So now here's our graph line. So again, start off with the y-intercept 0, -5, and after I convert the 3 into a fraction, simply by putting it over 1, 3 is our rise and 1 is our run. So up 3, right 1, up 3, right 1. There we have our graph line.